My name is Paul Summers. I'm 84 years old. I was born and raised in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. When did you born?
January 24th, 1930, in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania.
Hmm. So, tell me about the school you went.
I went to 12 grades, high school,
Uh-huh. What school was it?
Waynesboro Senior High School.
Oh. And what about your brothers and sisters and family?
My brother was also a Marine and served in Korea.
Uh-huh. Marine?
Yeah, he was a Marine.
So, old brother or younger brother?
He was my older brother,
Old brother.
about a year older than me.
Ah. And is he alive?
No, he died.
What's his name?
Eugene Summers.
Ah. So he was in the Korean theater?
Yes, he was.
When was it?
When?
Yeah.
1950.
1950. Do you remember the month? Summer or?
I went over there in July, I think it was.
Uh-huh. No, your brother.
My brother was in at the same time.
Same time.
Yeah, he was up at the Chosin Reservoir too.
Do you have his pictures?
I do, at home. We went through boot camp together.
Boot camp together.
Yeah.
So what were you doing when the Korean War broke out, June 25th of 1950? What were you doing?
Well, I graduated from high school in 1948,
Uh-huh.
and I was working at a tool company, grinding machines. And then I enlisted in the Marine Corps with my brother and 3 other guys.
Why did you enlist?
How's that?
Why did you enlist?
I had in my yearbook in high school
Mm-hmm.
that I always wanted to be a Marine.
Hmm.
And it turned out that that's what I did. I joined the Marine Corps.
Why did you like Marine?
Because they're the best outfit there is.
Yeah, best outfit.
That's right.
That attracts you.
Huh?
That attracts you.
Yeah.
How about your brother?
He was a year older than me.
I know, but he did like Marine too?
Yes, he did.
So both of you enlisted at the same time. When was it?
Well, it was a funny story there. My mother and father took Gene and I
Mm-hmm.
down to Washington, D.C. to see a Yankee baseball game.
Uh-huh.
Yankees was our team.
Yeah.
After the game was over, we were walking out in the park,
Uh-huh.
and there was a little boy selling papers. And he was yelling, "Extra, extra, read all about it. Marines called to Korea."
Wow.
And my brother looked at me, and I looked at him. We didn't say anything, but we got home. He had a telegram to report back to base immediately. I didn't have anything. I was ticked off.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to go too, but as it turned out, I beat him over there.
Uh-huh.
They flew me over. They needed bodies. They needed bodies, so they went around to post camps and stations all over the world and got guys that had served a lot of time there and put us on a plane and sent us over to Korea.
Where did you receive the basic training?
Paris Island,
Paris Island, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Tell me about the boot camp training. What kind of training did you get?
Well, to be honest with you, the training came when you first got there.
Mm-hmm.
It lasted for about 6 weeks, I guess it was, something like that. And the training we got was when we got over to Korea. That was the training we got. Because I was in a guard detachment up in Dover, New Jersey, out of boot camp. They sent me up there. And I was up there for at least a year, or a little bit better, when they sent us over to Korea.
So did you receive the basic training with your brother together?
Yes, we were in the same platoon.
So you must see him every day.
I did then, yeah. Right.
What did you guys talk about? The basic training, and didn't you know that you might be dragged into the Korean War?
No, we were trained to do that if something would happen throughout the world. We were trained at that time to do that. We were being trained to be a fighting machine. And that's what we were.
So you were not afraid of going into the war?
Not until after I got over there.
This is an amazing story. Two brothers at the same time at the same camp and going together to the Korean War.
Yeah.
Have you?
He went over by boat from Camp Pendleton, California, where the 2nd Marine Division was.
Mhm.
I mean, the 1st Marine Division. And
Testing,
they needed me
testing.
right away.
So your brother was in the 2nd Division,
No, he was in the 1st Marine Division.
1st Marine,
Yeah,
and you were
1st Marine Division.
same division.
Yeah.
What was your specialty?
Well, what he did in civilian life, he was a radio man.
Uh-huh.
He could fix radios. So they took him naturally and put him with the radio outfit. Me, I was a grunt.
Grunt mean?
Grunt. Means
What-
that I was just a dig the ground.
What country did you know in Asia at the time?
In Asia,
Mm-hmm.
well, I guess you could say probably Japan
Mm-hmm.
because of the war that we got in.
So you were headed to a country you never heard of before.
That's right.
What did that tell you? Did you question why I'm going there? And
Well, I was young at the time. I was young and I trained to be a Marine, and that's the way I went with it.
that's it.
That's it.
Any other? Did you have a sister at the time?
No,
No. So only two sons.
two sons.
What was the reaction of your parents that both of their?
They hated to see us go, but they went with it.
Do you remember what they say to you?
The only thing I remember is they got 2 telegrams when we were both wounded. They got telegrams saying that we were wounded. They didn't tell them how bad at the time.
That's it.
That's it.
So do you remember when you left for Korea?
No, I don't. Dates are kind of hazy to me.
How about year? When did you leave? 1950.
50.
Month?
A month,
Uh-huh.
December of 50 is when they sent me home.
Oh, that's the date that they sent you home.
That's when I left over there.
So what about arrival time in Korea? How did you go to Korea? From where?
Like I said before, they came over and got Marines that have been there for a while and post camps and stations all around the world. And they put us on an airplane fully equipped for combat, rifle, packs, everything, ammo. Put us on a Pan American Strata cruiser, and we flew over to Guam, and from Guam to Japan, Japan into Korea, under the cover of darkness.
So when did you arrive in Korea?
I think it was in the end of July.
End of July?
Yeah, 50.
Where did you arrive?
I don't know anymore. Some little town somewhere. It was dark.
Busan?
No, it wasn't in Busan yet.
So you flew over to Korea, right?
Right.
Should been Gimpo?
We did get to Busan, the Busan perimeter.
Busan Pyramid.
I fought at the Busan perimeter. They had us about pushed out into the water, but the Marines went in and made counterattacks when the North Koreans broke through. They would send us in, plug up the gap.
Please describe about the Nakdong perimeter battle. How severe was it? How close from the enemy? What did you do? Just tell me, how was it? Detail, give me the details.
Well, like I say, we landed at nighttime, and the next morning we wanted to go to get something to eat, and they had their weapons stacked in teepees, like a teepee ambulance. There must have been 75 to over 100 weapons there. So you're responsible for your weapon. And what happened, I went in, I thought I'm no different than the rest of the guys. I'm going to stack my weapon too. It was a beautiful weapon and had a beautiful stock on it. They just got it out of Camp Pendleton. And somebody must have liked that, because when I came out from eating my breakfast, the weapon was gone. That's a court-martial offense.
Yeah.
So what I did what any red-blooded American boy would do. I grabbed somebody else's rifle. As luck would have it, I got on a truck that my buddy was on the truck, and he was looking for his weapon. I had it, so I give it to him. I couldn't find mine. Somebody took it. So I went over to the commanding officer. He was out on helicopter patrol, and they said that you can go back and come over when we call you. And he comes back. Well, he came back, and I went over, and they gave me a BAR,
What is BAR?
Browning automatic rifle.
Uh-huh. So,
Like I say, they didn't want to court-martial me because they needed bodies. I was a body to them.
and then what happened? Did you go to the front line and fighting?
We moved up. They moved up 2 or 3 days later, I think it was. I'm not sure about that anymore. But I was up on the high ridge digging in for the night. And you heard a friendly fire. Our forces were behind us, lobbing artillery over down on the other side where the enemy was.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard this whistle, and I thought, that sounds like it's going to be short. Sure enough, down no further from here, there's buildings over there. Artillery piece landed right amongst the Marines. Killed 4 of them, 4 or 5.
What was the reaction of the soldiers killed by the friendly fires?
They didn't like it, of course, but that can't be helped. It was either a bad round of ammunition or something, or some other faulty thing.
And that was in the Busan perimeter?
Right,
Right.
right.
What was the situation? Was North Korea was winning, and how desperate? Tell me about those.
Well, we got the first call to go up and plug the gap. On one of them, we did that. And I guess before we moved out the next day, they pulled us out and said the Marines are going back and regroup and get ready for the Incheon landing. They didn't tell us Incheon at the time.
I mean, what was the battle there in the Busan before you jump into the Incheon? Tell me more about it. How many days were you fighting? And no, not at all?
It wasn't too many days. It could have been one or 2 days that we were there.
How about your brother? Where was your brother?
I have no idea. He was in Korea, but I don't know where he was at. I didn't run into him again. Well, I didn't run into him, but I heard he was there. He was up at the Chosin Reservoir. I tried to get a jeep to go up and see where he was at, but they couldn't give me one.
When you were in the Busan Paramount, were you afraid? Were you scared?
Oh, you're always a little scared. You don't know whether those rounds are meant for you or not. But you do what you got to do. You got to protect your buddies that are with you. You got to rely on them, and they rely on you.
How was the scene in the Busan perimeter? Was it many people there, buildings or trees? Tell me about the...
I remember, like I say, I got there before the whole division went over.
Mm-hmm.
But when the whole division came over and landed, I was in Busan, and they sent us out on Liberty. And my brother came in on that ship that came in from Camp Pendleton. I didn't get a chance to see, you know. But what they wanted to do, they wanted to let us out and spread the word.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's any infiltrators there, they took us out, put us on a boat, took us out in the harbor of Incheon, and they had a replica made up of Womido. You know where Womido is?
Yeah, yeah.
We took Womido. That was our objective. And after they got us on the ship, nobody could get off and go tell them where we were going.
So actually, you rehearsed the landing in Wonmido.
Right.
Where did you rehearse that?
Right, basically on board ship. On board ship, they had a replica of Womido Island.
When did you leave for Incheon? You said that you arrived at the end of July
Yeah.
and was early September?
I'm not really sure of the dates and the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I do know that we were like 3 ships. I know some of them. One of them was the USS Dianchenko and USS Wyandotte. I don't know what the third one was anymore. I forget. And we were going up the Yellow Sea for the invasion of Incheon. We got in a typhoon. And that wasn't no picnic. We all got sicker than a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were trying to kill me before I got in the actual landing.
Were you briefed about the mission Incheon landing, why we are doing that? Did you get some kind of briefing? Did you have any idea what you were doing?
I don't know if it's because I read it in a book when I came back or whether it actually was. We were told that landing in Incheon, they'll go across the peninsula.
You didn't know what you were doing, but you just did it because you were told to do so.
Right.
Hmm.
I just about didn't make it in. We had took Womido, and then we left there. From Womido, we were moving towards Seoul.
So, yes.
And
Before we go into the Incheon, how was the life?
we didn't have all those niceties. We ate sea rations, which is military. They got different things nowadays. They don't have sea rations anymore. It's K rations or something like that.
What was the best food?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not a picky eater. I eat almost anything.
Did you write a letter back to your family?
Yeah, I wrote practically every day. I got the chance. Every day. You got to take time to take a crap and do things like that. And everyday things.
What did you write? What did you write about? In your letter?
What the weather was like. Tell them that we're moving up, something like that. Don't worry about us.
Did you write about your brother?
Yeah, wrote to him too.
Oh, you wrote to him?
Yeah.
So you were actually exchanging the letters while you were in Korea?
Few.
Very few?
Very few.
Hmm.
Because he was busy, the same as I was.
What did you write to him? You are the two soldiers and in the same place, so the contents of the letter should be very different from what you wrote to your parents.
Basically, it's not different. We talked about the weather. We talked about whether he wrote any letters home to his parents. And we wrote and tried to tell him what we were doing. That sort of thing.
By the way, what was your rank?
At the time, I was just a PFC,
PFC,
private first class.
private first class. How about your brother? Same?
He was the same. I believe he was a corporal
Mm.
at the time.
Okay, so tell me about the reactions from enemy when you were landing in Walmido.
Well, I was in the first wave going in, first wave to hit Walmido. And I had a Browning automatic rifle. And when I jumped off, when that old gangplank went down, I jumped off into the water. The water was up above my knees. And I came across the foxhole that had 3 or 4 dead North Koreans in it. And there was only one of them that had a rifle. So we must have surprised them.
And did you kill anybody?
Didn't see myself kill anybody, no.
No?
No.
Was the enemy's reaction was severe? Very...
No, actually, it was not very severely Incheon. It was certain other beaches. They tried to go over their seawalls down there. And there was a buddy of mine that I was stationed with up in Dover, New Jersey. He was killed there, going over that seawall.
So after that, you moved forward to Seoul, right?
Yeah.
How was it? I mean, I heard that on the way to Seoul was much more difficult than the landing.
Yeah, they had to cross the Han River. I never made it to the Han River. I was wounded 2 days outside of Incheon.
Oh, tell me about that. Where and how you got that wounded?
We landed and we secured the island of Walmido. And then we moved out, and 2 days later, I was eating my sea rations, and we were in reserve. One day, your outfit has the point, which is you're right out in front, and then after you do that, you go to the rear, and you rotate.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting eating my sea rations, and the lieutenant came down and said, we got to go down to this little village. There's some guerrillas supposedly down there that chased them out of their homes. So I thought, well, there ain't nothing to that because there's Marines everywhere. So we went down. They took our platoon. We went down and went through all the houses. Didn't see a soul. We were getting ready to leave. And somebody said, we better check out in the backyard. So I looked down, and another Marine came through. I glanced down, I saw him come through, and he pointed out in front of me. He said, there is one. I looked back quick, and there was a North Korean standing straight up. He saw me, he sat down. When he sat down, I opened up. I just sprayed the area and emptied my whole case right where he sat down. So then all hell broke loose. Bullets were flying everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I laid down. I thought there was a mound of dirt about 30 or 40 yards out in front of me. I'll load up my DAR and get a hand grenade. And I'll run over there, throw the grenade, and charge in. Well, as I was running over, I went down to take my position. And I thought my back, it felt like I touched a tree branch.
Hmm.
My right shoulder, but there was no trees there. I was out in the open, so I knew I was hit. And then my arm started getting stiff like it was broke. And they yelled for me to get down over there. My other Marine buddies, they said, we can't get to you yet. For about 45 minutes I laid there. I was feeling around to see where the bullet might have come out, because they said you'll bleed to death if you don't stop the bleeding.
Mm.
I didn't know it at the time, but it didn't come out. It stayed in.
Mm.
I could take my finger back there, push it around. And the corpsman came by and gave me a shot of morphine and gave me a little brandy bottle. And I took a sip. I didn't want to act a hog. He says, kill it. So I killed the whole thing. They put me on a ship, or a jeep, took me out to a ship in the harbor in Incheon. Then took me back to Japan to the hospital. Because they didn't take, I thought they might take the bullet out right away, but they said no, they're afraid of infection. So So they wait till it heals over, and then they operate.
What were you thinking when you were hit?
I was scared when he was hit, because I thought to myself, they said that the enemy likes to get those Browning automatic rifles, and that's what I had at the time. So I was afraid that the enemy might crawl over to me to try to get that weapon, but they didn't. My buddies were watching them.
Did you regret?
And,
Did you regret that you came to Korea?
no, I don't regret it.
Did you know what communism was at the time?
What?
Communism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I knew.
How? What was it? What was your understanding of communism?
They were a bad outfit.
Did you see Korean people around?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do they look like at the time? Tell me about the scenes in the Korean village and Korean people around Wonmi, Incheon.
To be honest with you, I couldn't tell a North Korean from a South Korean, or from a Japanese or a Filipino.
What was the situation?
They looked like an Oriental.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say.
You went back to Japan to be
Right.
treated.
Right.
And then what happened?
I would have never known what happened in that firefight that I just explained to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a firefight. But what happened, when I was back in Japan, I went over to the latrine one morning, and here I ran into a buddy of mine that got into Seoul, and he was wounded in Seoul.
Mm.
He was with me in that firefight that I was in.
Mm.
I said, what happened back there?
Mm-hmm.
He said they took a tank out in the backyard. They followed a tank in, and there was 25 dead North Koreans there. So I probably got some of them, but I didn't actually see myself shoot one of them.
Mm.
That was fine.
And then what happened? Did you go back to your home or what?
No, I was with my old outfit. They sent us over from Camp Otsu. They sent us back over. We landed at Wonsan and moved up that way. I missed the fight, like I told you. You said you were from Seoul. My outfit, the 5th Regiment,
Mm-hmm.
5th Regiment of the 1st Marines. We leveled Seoul till we got up to a place called Udamni.
Udamni.
That was the furthest north that the Marines got.
Mm-hmm.
And we hadn't seen the enemy. They had vanished. The North Koreans had vanished. And the Chinese hadn't come in it yet. But I was sitting eating my sea rations one day out moving up there towards Udamni. And a shot rang out behind me. And I heard somebody yell for a corpsman. And I asked a buddy to come run by, what happened up there? He said, some guy shot himself to be taken out. And,
How was the weather at the time?
it wasn't real bad at first, but it started to get bad each night. It increased more and more.
What do you mean by bad?
37 below.
37 below?
37 below. Some say 50 below, 40 below. But 35 is a good estimate. And my buddy and I took our weapons and put them between us, covered them up with a poncho, and got in our sleeping bags. I took my big shoe packs off, first time in weeks or more. And they told us due to having accidental discharges in your weapon, don't keep a bullet in your weapon in the chamber. Just keep the safety on. Well, I thought it's my weapon, it's my life. I'm going to keep a bullet in the chamber, so I'm ready. And my buddy didn't do that. He listened to what they said, and kept one out of his weapon. So that night the Chinese hit us. They come down over the hill, they were all around us. And we jumped out of our sleeping bag and grabbed the weapon and the excitement. And I grabbed his weapon, he grabbed mine. I went up a hill, they told us to form a skirmish line. George come in here, going to move out and go up that hill where they were coming down off of this hill. And he says, we're going to take that hill and we're going to keep it till morning. So we did. We started out, we went up the hill, and the Chinese were throwing down fragmentation grenades. Didn't have any hard metal in it or anything. Concussion grenades. They had concussion. If they'd had fragmentation, I wouldn't be here today. Because they were throwing them down just like rocks. They were landing all around me. Picked the button, my buddy was in front of me, and one of them hit close to him, picked him up, dropped him down. I thought it killed him, but it just knocked him out. I could see smoke coming up at the top of the hill. I thought, what is that? Nobody's got a fire. I didn't see no flame, but it's like smoke. As it got daylight, we laid on that hill for quite a while. That's where a lot of us got frostbite. And I thought, what is that? Got up there, got daylight. There was a Chinaman had half his head blowed off, and his blood was running in the snow. And I was putting the steam up. We moved up a little bit further, and there was dead Chinamen laying everywhere. I laid my rifle out over the top of one of them, used him for cover, because the ground was frozen by then. You couldn't really dig in.
And then you began to withdraw?
No, we stayed on that hill until the next night. We were looking for him to attack the next night. But as it would happen, this is where it was like a movie. The Chinese, I know, were all around. And I wondered when it came daylight whether or not our CP, our command post, would be still there. And when it got light, I looked down, I could see Old Glory. American flag made me think. I can still see the stars and stripes with it. Made me feel good.
When you saw that stars and stripes, you feel safe?
Yeah, I felt safe. I knew that they were watching our flank.
I mean, looking back those almost 60 years ago, what do you feel now? What do you think that you went through and why you were there? Do you have any idea why you were there? And
well, people say that we didn't win that war in Korea, but I disagree with them because they had a 38th parallel.
Mm-hmm.
And the North Koreans went across that 38th parallel. And when they stopped the fighting, we were above that 30th parallel. It wasn't much.
Mm-hmm.
We were above the 38th parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Because the 38th parallel separated the North and the South.
Right. But because you were above the 38th parallel, you think that you won?
Yeah, I won that bit of the war, yes. I was laying in a skirmish line the next day, and these two trucks came down this dirt road. And they were loaded, it looked like they were loaded 5-ton trucks. And it looked like they had this firewood on the trucks. But when they got closer to me, there was dead Marines. Their arms were out stiff like this, rigor mortis, and their legs were stiff. they went over not too far from me and dumped these trucks into this big hole, and the tank scooped it out, and they buried them. I often wondered whether they found them. That was up at UDMD.
That's awful. Do you see those scenes in your dreams?
Yeah, don't forget them. Yeah, don't forget them.
Does that bothers you, right?
Yeah. We moved out. We had the rear guard action coming out. They were going to start out, our outfit was going to start out down the road to Hagaroo. And the whole column was held up because there was one giant bunker. And I was sitting along the side of the road. There was a Jeep with a radio man in it. And he was talking to some general further down the road. And the general wanted to know why the column was held up. And he says, General, he said, it's held up because he said it's fortified up there. And he said, we haven't been able to move. He says, Colonel, he says, that hill will be taken regardless of the cost. And I knew the next morning they said if they didn't take the hill, they were going to have to fix bayonets and go up. That was George Company. I was in. Sure enough, come morning, they weren't off the hill. So we fixed bayonets and started up. We didn't go too far. Small arms fire kept us back. So they told us to lay down, put out our air panels. We're going to send in a night fighter to drop a 500-pound bomb. So we could hear the plane come. I said, boy, I hope we don't miss. And it hit, bomb hit, it shook the whole hill. We waited a little bit. They said, okay, get up. They got up and start up again. They opened up the same as before. So they said, stay put, we're going to send another one in, drop another one. They dropped another one, and we started up that time and didn't get any return fire. As we got up near the top, there was a big bunker. It must have been built there by the Chinese earlier. Great big thing, right in front of me. I thought I'll get a grenade ready and throw it up there, and then I'll charge over the top. I was just getting ready to throw a grenade, and a voice come out of the bunker and said, don't shoot, there's Marines in here. And what had happened, the Chinese had overrun them in the night, and they killed 3 or 4 Marines. And the other Marine that said, don't shoot, there's Marines in here, he was wounded in half, his nose was blown off.
How did you get out of the Udamni
We eventually got down that
road again?
After fighting, every turn in the road had a bunker. Maybe not a big one, but a small one.
Describe the weather there.
You can't imagine what it was like. Canteens were froze up with water. One good thing about it, stopped the bleeding. Guys that were bleeding wounded, it stopped the bleeding.
And then when did you come back to the United States?
Well, I got into Hanamung, got on board ship, I guess it was. Took us to Japan. And then I got on an airplane. Of course, on an airplane, flew us back to the States. Landed up around Boston. And then took Boston down to Washington, D.C. And I went to the Bethesda Naval Hospital. Had my mother and father come down and pick me up. And guess what? It was New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, I saw my mother and father.
1951. How about your brother?
He came back too. He made it back. He was also wounded. He ran into a buddy of his he hadn't seen for a while. He was shaking hands with him, and his buddy was a machine gun. Killed him while he was shaking hands with my brother.
Have you been back to Korea?
No.
Do you know what happened to Korea after that? Do you know about the current Korea?
Yeah, I want to read the papers and so forth.
What do you know about Korea? Tell me.
Television.
Huh?
Television. Well,
Yeah.
We made them a great power. They built themselves up, the Koreans. Compared to the North Koreans, they don't have nothing.
So you think you won the war?
I think we won that part of it. I don't think we lost it. How can they say we lost it when it ended up in there? We're ahead on the 38th parallel.
Mm-hmm. And now the Korea is one of the 12th largest
Right.
economy in the world. It's a vibrant democracy. So what do you feel about your service? What is the legacy of your service?
So we have to get them on their feet again, the Koreans. We stop the spread of communism in that hemisphere.
How did American government treat you after you returned to home?
Okay, I don't have any complaints.
Mm-hmm. Any message do you want to leave to this interview? Anything that you want to say?
Yeah, it sounds funny to say that, but the people, when they go to the polls, they better know who they're voting for.
Hmm.
They don't do enough in our schools to teach the children what happened back then,
That's why I'm doing this.
is it?
Yeah, so that
Good.
our young generations can hear from you and they can learn about Korean War. Okay?
That's good. That's good.
Paul, I want to thank you for your fight and the sacrifices. We are very strong and we are proud of being allied to the United States. And I want to thank you on behalf of Korean nation for your fighting.
You're a good interviewer. You've got a good personality. Yeah, I'm proud to say that I fought in all three battles over there. Pusan Perimeter Defense, the Seoul Incheon Landing, and the Chosin Reservoir. And I did it with a great bunch of guys. A lot of them are still over there.